And just on that meeting at the White House in the Oval Office over the weekend, it's worth revisiting. This was a 40-minute meeting, but this, what you're about to see, is the 2 minutes that the world is talking about at the moment.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't been
in this
alone.
cabinet.
You haven't been alone.
In this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
if
you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
And joining me now is Ukraine's ambassador to Australia, Vasyl Myroshnychenko. Vasyl, thanks so much for your time. Watching that again, was it an ambush?
Of course, every Ukrainian had their emotions, and everybody was watching it. I watched it live. At the same time, the soldiers from the front lines were also watching it. Ukrainian displaced people in Europe were watching this. Women who were raped by the Russian soldiers also watched it. And those relatives of those abducted Ukrainian children, which Russians have stolen, also watched this video. Entire country was watching the video. And we certainly reacted to that, and Ukrainian people have reacted. And of course, myself as a Ukrainian, as a human being, I had my own emotions. But you have to remember, I'm also the ambassador, and I have to keep my head cool, and I have to focus on my mandate. And my mandate is related to Australia, it's related to New Zealand, Pacific Islands, and I focus on the deliverables here.
Yeah, and that is fair enough. Australia also is invested in Ukraine and peace in that part of the world as well. What seemed to be apparent is that the United States and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance in particular didn't seem to, didn't think Zelensky had thanked them enough. Is Ukraine thankful for the US support?
Of course, we are very thankful, and it was the leadership of the American president and the leadership of the British Prime Minister in 2022, which rallied a coalition of 50 nations, which have helped Ukraine survive this war. Australia and New Zealand have joined and contributed military equipment, provided training to our soldiers, provided humanitarian assistance. We wouldn't be able to survive without your help, and we're extremely grateful. I'm grateful personally. The President is grateful. All people are grateful, because we are all democracies, and Ukraine is fighting for its freedom, for its independence, for democracy, and therefore everybody was inspired by the leadership of President Zelensky when he courageously did not accept the right but asked for ammunition.
Yeah, of course. And there has been iterations along the way. It was around a year ago, I think, that Zelensky kind of hinted that perhaps he would be willing to give up some territory in Ukraine for the sake of peace. But help us understand here, Vasyl, here in Australia, what the red lines are now in terms of getting a deal done. Is Ukraine still willing to give up, Crimea? Is it contingent on NATO support?
Laura, imagine that your enemy comes here, occupies Queensland, kills many Australians, rapes many women, and bombs your cities and destroys your infrastructure. And the enemy is, offering you peace if you give up Queensland. However, the enemy has a plan. The enemy wants to also take over Western Australia because you have many critical minerals. But your government is in that situation. You personally living in Sydney have to answer that. And this is what Ukrainians feel, and this is what they are reacting to. And it's not about the territory that we are fighting for. We are fighting for the Ukrainian people in the occupation because we have liberated parts of Ukraine and we know how Russians treat Ukrainians in the occupied territories. What gross violations of human rights are happening there? What are they subjected to? So this is what we are fighting for. And of course, we want peace more than anybody else. But to achieve peace, we need security guarantees. And these security guarantees have to be solid. They have to be sustainable. That's the only way how we can achieve peace. And to make that happen, we need America on board, we need Europe on board, and we need everybody involved in making sure that we can get peace in Europe. Because we have seen the biggest war we've seen since the Second World War. Yeah. And we are suffering, we're getting killed, we're getting destroyed. But we need to make sure that Russians don't actually resupply, regroup, and mount another attack 4 years from now. And to have that guarantee, we need to be strong militarily. We need to have air defense system. We need to have the presence of the NATO Navy in the Black Sea. We need to have long-range missiles. There must be strong military to deter. If we can, NATO membership probably would be the easiest and the cheapest way to get those security guarantees. If we can't get it now, which I believe is still inevitable in the long run, we should get those security guarantees before we can even develop any of our resources. Because we are interested in signing the deal. It's a good deal, don't get me wrong. And I was promoting the deal because I think there are many opportunities for Australian companies once this deal is signed. So I think we could make lots of money there together. But my question, who's going to invest in Ukraine if there is a threat that Russians will come back and destroy whatever was invested into?
Before I let you go, this was a very strange moment in the Oval Office as part of that 40-minute meeting.
Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting.
I don't have such.
Office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe
something
something like yours. Yes. Maybe something better. I don't know.
Vasyl, you say you were watching this live over the weekend. What did you think when that question was thrown in?
I think it was a very good response from President Zelensky, and he was pretty clear. And he's been like that for the past 3 years. He was just hosted by His Majesty the King Charles in London, and he was just like that. And he was hosted by other 19 leaders in Europe, like in the way he is dressed, and that's been a trademark for Zelensky. He's fighting for the nation. He's fighting for our survival. And, support for Zelensky is skyrocketing now, over 70%. It jumped last week, but over the weekend, it really has gone to the level of 2019 when he was elected, when he got 73% in landslide victory to become the president of Ukraine. And we admire our president. We stick to him because we understand that it's a matter of our survival at the moment, and we have to be focused. We can't achieve peace without American involvement. That's true. And for me personally, Laura, I spent so many years in America. I was there at 15. When I was 15, I was in Tennessee. I was an intern at the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv for 2 years when I was 18. I did a summer business school in Pennsylvania. I bought grain storage facilities in North Dakota. I traveled California. I traveled Florida. I've been all over America. I love America with the bottom of my heart. And American people support Ukraine because we are fighting for freedom and independence, just like Americans were fighting for their freedom and independence over 200 years ago. That's what we are fighting for. Our values are aligned because this is the same war that they've had. You didn't have this war. Brits didn't have it. I mean, Brits were, and New Zealanders did not have it. We have it, just like Americans did. This is what makes Ukrainians and and Americans aligned. We are fighting against our colonial power, the colonial power which wants to destroy our sovereignty. This is what we are fighting for.
Vasyl, it's always good to talk to you on AM Agenda. We really appreciate you giving us your time today.
Thanks for having me.